Hi, and welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast in association with CarWow, the online car-changing destination. Together, we share tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your department, dealership, or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett, or some of you might already know me as Skippy. Firstly, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Today, I'm joined with one of our lead trainers, Stuart Wallbanks, and we're going to talk all things presentation. This again is an episode that you might want to play in a sales meeting to your whole sales team. So the presentations of the car, call it a walk-around presentation, a 6-position, a 5-position sell, whatever you call it, are they important? Are you getting the best out of them in your dealership? Is it worth doing them? So Stuart, welcome aboard.
Hi, Simon.
So let's start off with the presentations in a dealership. Are they still happening, Stuart? Do you see as many of them happening as we used to years ago?
Yeah, I would say that's not changed from my experience. I think everyone agrees it's a fundamental part of the sales process. Has the quality changed? I'd probably say yes, as cars have become more tech laden. There's more stuff to talk about. Some of it totally relevant, maybe some of it not so much. So I think what people are presenting has changed. But from my experience, yeah, presentation has always been a key.
Yeah, I'm just nervous that sometimes the best presentation in the sales process should be after we qualify, so we know exactly what the customer's interested in. It should raise the desire before we put the numbers in front of people. But is it always happening in that order, or is the presentation happening when it's far too late almost?
I heard someone say, it may have been you, that the best presentation often happens at handover. There's a study done by the AA of 1,000 people, I think it was, and they asked those car owners, has your car got ABS brakes? And 80% of those questioned knew or guessed correctly that their car had indeed got ABS brakes. When they asked them what ABS brakes are, what do they do? Around 80% of that 80% had absolutely no idea.
Wow.
Which kind of backs up the point, really, doesn't it? That salespeople, not all, but probably the majority, they'll just feature dump and they'll say it's got. But how much of that actually lands? How much of it actually sort of resonates with any value?
Well, you're talking about ABS brakes, which has been standing on cars for 20 years or whatever it is. Okay. But how much technology has a modern car got on it? Matrix headlighting, adaptive cruise controls, the heated and cooled seats now, the technology, they're all brimming with technology. There's almost a danger that there's more of a feature dumping happening now, isn't there?
Correct. And so when you ask me at the offset, has the presentation changed? No, but there's so much tech. And you know what? From experience, I think the occasions I see where salespeople fall foul to it the most is when they've done manufacturer training or manufacturer launch, because they get their heads filled with some incredible stuff.
All good stuff.
Real good stuff. And every brand, certainly almost every brand, and definitely the prestige brands have got some incredible technology. And it's great that the manufacturers get their sales team sort of energized and passionate and excited to talk about these features to customers. Unfortunately, that often spills into it's got. And again, we go full circle. How much of that actually means anything?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've just had a flashback then. I was a brand new salesperson in a Toyota dealership in Townsville, North Queensland. I'd just been on some training for the new Toyota 4Runner, and they put you know how they put the chip in? Now, all good stuff. Okay, they were not knocking any OEM manufacturer training there. But I definitely had the chip in about this OEM and got it completely wrong. I mean, the man came and asked me about this 4Runner. And he said, right at the beginning, I just want to have a look at the 4Runner. I said, oh, yes, come with me. And I tell you what, Stuart, I had him eaten out of my hand. I said, it's got coil sprung suspension now, not leaf springs. Now, if you're under 30, go and Google what a leaf spring was. Okay. Towing capacity, the hubs would lock in automatically. You didn't have to get out into the mud and lock. And I promise you, this guy was eating out of my hands. Okay. He loved it. It must have been a good Stuart, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, I don't know, but I was showing him every single thing about the car. And then, in my wisdom, I decided to do a bit of qualification. So,
Mm.
what are you driving currently? He said, oh, it's a company car. They've just bought me one of these. I want to see what they bought me. And again, this is how I got it completely wrong because I went into a presentation without any form of qualification at all. Yeah, it's I hope that doesn't still happen. And if it does, if you're new listeners, please learn from my mistakes.
I think there's an art there, isn't there? When a customer walks into the showroom, naturally they'll gravitate to the car of interest if it's in the showroom, and naturally then that's where our meet and greet, our rapport building starts. I think getting the customer away from the car if we possibly can, um, or at
Mm,
the very least not forgetting to start with all of that. Hey, was it about that particular car that caught your eye, or what is it that about that
mm,
car that put it on your shopping list? Find out why they're looking at that car.
mm.
But from my experience, and I see it in modern dealerships, if we can sort of, I really like the coffee corners in dealerships. They've replaced the desk,
Mm.
but I just find it's a great place to start away from the car where it's almost neutral territory. We have a coffee, we have an informal chat, we get to know a little bit about the customer, and then when we present the car, we can bring it to life.
So this was just last week. I was in a dealership, and it's a Porsche dealership, and there was a debate about, well, hold on, in your sales process that you talk about, you do the presentation after qualification. But if a customer comes in and they're looking at the new Macan EV, shouldn't we take them straight to the car to show them the car? And I went, well, yes, but would you do a full presentation without knowing what they want? And I want to get your views on do we take a customer to the car first, or do we say, no, 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 let's find out what you're interested in first? Is it okay just to let people sit in the car first, or is there a danger that becomes the full presentation then?
There can't be a right or wrong answer to that. If I was fully in control of the process, I'd get the customer away from the car, but that's not reality, is it? If the customer's coming in, certainly on, well, any car is going to be exciting to the customer if it's the car that they're interested in. The Porsche, the Macan it's quite easy to talk about. So if they're really excited and want to look at the car, it would be almost rude of us to say, no, 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 you can't look at that yet.
Yeah.
I've not asked my questions. Um, so wherever our conversation starts, I think the questions that we start with are probably more important than the geographical location and where we're stood in the showroom. So ideally away from the car, because I just feel like that that's the moment, isn't it? When we show the car of interest,
Mm,
that's one of the key things that the customers can't do from home. That's why they visited the dealership. So I
mm.
almost want to protect it and wrap it up and keep it special. Um, but the car's there, it's on display. So yeah, if that's where the conversation starts, so be it. But let's not forget where we start in terms of conversation, and that has to be qualification.
Yeah, I'm just almost nervous about presenting the right feature to the wrong customer.
Mm,
The amount of times that I'm 52 now, I have a 22-year-old boy, a 19-year-old boy. They're hardly ever in my car. I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of times they've been in my car. Safety is not important to me.
mm.
It's just not at this stage. Now, if I had a brand new Jacob at 4 years old, safety for you, Stuart, is going to be high up, I'm guessing. But I suppose that's my point there. Don't guess. Let's ask some questions before we go into and the amount of times people have gone to me about the ISOFIX child seats and the NCAP safety rating and brilliant, absolutely brilliant if I was a brand new grandparent.
Yeah,
But for me on my rep mobile, maybe not. And it's like for a rep mobile, I want to know about the adaptive cruise control, how much that's going to make my life easier. I want to know about the heated and cooled seats, which is going to make my life easier. Um,
yeah. I heard recently. I'll let you tell the listeners who it was if you wish. But somebody's wife went to look at an EV. It was a Tesla, and was thinking about replacing their current car with an EV. So their biggest concern or questions was about range anxiety. Could they get from where they live to where their parents are, which is hundreds of miles in on one journey? And when they went into the showroom to look at this particular Tesla, it was a Model X, the sales exec fell into the very trap you're talking about, got really excited about the two standout features that would appeal to any 19-year-old male,
mm.
which was the gull wing doors that will pop up. And I think the car does a dance or a song, doesn't it?
Something like
Um,
that. Yeah.
and second to that, how on the screen, if you have the big open fireplace and heat comes out of the vent, and if I'm right, the lady in question walked out of the dealership and thought that car absolutely is not for me. What was that guy even talking about? And went and bought an EV from a completely different brand. So again, that goes back into and I've done it. I'm sure I did when selling Alfa Romeo back in the late 90s. The stuff that I was really excited about back then as a 18, 19-year-old petrol head would be totally different to the stuff that I'm excited about today.
Yeah. So in your view, is the presentation just about the car, or is it about the actual salesperson and maybe the dealership as well, and maybe the used vehicle, what we've done to that car to have it as a qualified or an approved used Honda, for example?
Yeah, we know customers do the bulk of their buying online. Not all customers, but the majority of customers. And we always say our job really now is to find out what selling the customers done to themselves.
Mm.
Again, what was it about that particular car that caught your eyes? One of the great questions that does that. But when you think about it, and there's models out there that mean you can buy a car from your armchair without having to visit a dealership, but the majority of customers, bricks and mortar, we know it works. There's two things that a customer can't do without some kind of interaction with a salesperson. One is to get a firm valuation on their part exchange. At some point, someone's going to have to physically appraise it. But the fundamental number one thing that people really can't do from their armchair is look at the car of interest, to actually see it, touch it, feel it, drive it, have someone present it to them. So for me, that just underlines the value or the importance of a presentation and the importance of what the retailer actually serves. It's such an important part of the buying process that we can facilitate. And I think it's such an opportunity for us to build value in us as a sales exec and us in the business. So handling that presentation, I think, and the demonstration drive that follows it is really important.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. So can you talk about what are some of the biggest mistakes you see a salesperson or in fact a sales team make in your when you're in dealerships?
It blows my mind. So when I talk about this on our road to a sale, um, and I talk about it with sales execs and delegates, it's almost like a light bulb moment. So my example would be an iPhone. If you walked into, let's say you're an Android user, you've always had a Samsung Galaxy or whatever it is. I'm clearly an iPhone user, and you
Mhm.
think, do you know what? Stewie, the trainer, keeps telling me how great an iPhone is. I'm going to go to an Apple store and inquire about the iPhone. So imagine the scenario: you walk in and a genius says, "Hey, great to see you. How can I help?" And you say, "Well, look, I've currently got a Samsung. I'm thinking about swapping to an iPhone. Could you explain it to me?" And if the product genius takes an iPhone and he says, "Well, here you go, Simon. This is the earpiece. That's where people, so you can hear them. The microphone's placed down here. That's what you speak into, so they can hear you. That's the screen. You touch that for the sort of the commands. On the back, we've got some camera lenses. On the bottom, that's really important because that's where you plug the phone in and it takes electricity. These are speaker. You go, mate. Are you okay? Are
Yes.
you all right?" Um, he wouldn't or she wouldn't just simply tell you what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Think of the last time you presented a car or you heard a colleague present a car. Did they take the customer to it and go, it's got tinted glass, it's got LED lights, it's got alloy wheels, it's got body colour bumpers, you've got your leather upholstery, you've got your panoramic roof, you've got your twin exhausts. I've got eyes. I
Yeah.
can see all of those things. And
Well, I'm quiet on
it's
the car.
madness.
I'm quiet on the car because it has got those 20-inch
Yeah.
alloy wheels, that tinted windows. Yeah.
Well, so often salespeople just say what they're looking at. And when
Yeah.
you actually compare that to almost any other product presentation, it just doesn't make any sense. So then the next step would be, let's say the next rung up on the ladder, the Apple genius picks up an iPhone and knows that actually they need to bring some of the features to life. So imagine I said, Simon, the iPhone's brilliant because there's an app here called In and Box. And what that does, it connects to your airbag jacket. So when you're next riding your motorbike, you've got an app that tells you that your vest is connected, it's inflated, it's operating correctly. What motorbike do you ride, by the way? Oh, you don't ride one. Oh, so that app won't be of any use to you whatsoever. So again, that goes back to
Mm.
the Tesla example, doesn't it? If
Yeah.
we just talk about the stuff that's relevant to us, that might bear no relevance whatsoever. So from experience, I am an iPhone user. I'm a sheep, call me whatever you like. And I wanted to upgrade, but there's three or four, maybe even five different iPhone models, isn't
Mm.
there?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if I just needed to go up one model or maybe a couple of models to the very latest one. And I was in an Apple store and I asked the question. And the very first question the genius asked me goes back to what we've been talking about. It's all about qualification. He said, Stuart, what do you use your phone for? I said, right, okay, well, Apple CarPlay, because I drive a lot, so I use Google Maps. Spotify, because I'm in the car a lot and I love my music. But I guess the biggest feature of my phone is my camera. He said, all right, what do you take pictures of? So I've got a little boy, he's 4. So of the 10,000 pictures in my phone, over 9,000 of them will be pictures I'll probably never look at again, but they're just where I've been catching Jacob in all of those moments. He said, tell me, those pictures that you're taking of Jacob, are they in low light conditions or daylight? And I kind of opened up the pictures and scrolled. It's like nearly all of them are in daylight. He said, Stuart, based on that, the next model will absolutely be brilliant for you because it does X, Y, Z. The model up from that does have a slightly better camera in very low light conditions. But based on what you've told me, it doesn't really require that level of investment for what you use your phone for. So my advice would be just go up the one model to such and such. Um, isn't that brilliant? You know, ask a really basic question. What do you use your phone for? You know, why are you looking at changing? And then presented the feature to me that ultimately is going to make me decide to buy that model.
Yeah, and not the hundreds of different features. Someone on a training course once said, "How with that phone, you can put it on one position on the desk to another position on the desk and tell you how far it is." In fact, my son told me that. I went,
Yeah.
Sean, why the hell would I want to do that? I've got a tape measure. Now, again, if I was an estate agent, sure, that might have a value to that person. But for me, no value at all. It's tailoring it to the right person, isn't it?
Yeah. We love the phrase that never in the history of time has anyone ever wanted to own a half-inch drill bit. Yet, in spite of that, for some reason, every year, tens of thousands of half-inch drill bits are sold. So the question is why?
They
What would
do.
drive someone to go out and buy a half-inch drill bit if they don't actually want to own a half-inch drill bit?
What do they actually want?
Correct. Half-inch hole.
Yeah.
So the half-inch drill bit is simply the tool to get to where they want to be. And I think that's a great analogy um, in terms of presentation. The features, okay, they may or may not be exciting, but it's what they do. It's the intrinsic benefit that they bring to the user. That's where the excitement and the value lies.
Yeah, people don't want the matrix headlighting. They don't want the adaptive cruise control. They want the vision at night on that country road when they come up behind someone to
Mm.
not blind the driver in front of them, but still have the high beam showing the sides of the road there. They want the long journey on the way home from work on a Friday night to be more relaxed by not having the cruise control going on and off. It's what it does for them, and it's
Yeah,
that is one of the mistakes I see all the time. You've got your adaptive cruise. You've got your, or you've got your. Now, actually, having said that, moving into the digital retailing world, no, not moving, we've moved into the digital retailing world. What does good presentation mean there? Because surely lots of presentations done before they come to us nowadays, right? Don't people know more about the car than what we do?
it's quite often the case, isn't it?
Mm,
Um, we, the sales exec, will know more about the brand and the
mm,
range as a whole. But certainly, if your customer's a snake or analytical, um, they're likely going to know more of the detail about a chosen model than sales exec. But in terms of the digital retail world, I guess that just adds value to our videos.
mm,
Whatever technology your particular dealership uses, the video that we send, I guess that really highlights the importance of sending a professional video. The challenge there is, of course, we haven't qualified the customer, so we can only
mm.
go on the bits of detail that will pick up on the initial inquiry. But then again, in our training, we talk about opening up a conversation, a channel of communication with the customer before we send the video, so we can ask the question,
Yeah.
what particular features would you like me to highlight? And then we've got a little bit more license with a little bit more information as to how to make that video absolutely stand out. And I guess drive the customer to want, no pun intended, to move the customer to want to come and physically see the car with us in our dealership.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the biggest mistake that you see, and in the digital world, we've been talking about how we need to do that. What's utopia look like? What's an ideal presentation look like for you? If I'm a brand new salesperson there thinking, okay, I like what Stuart's saying there. How do I make sure the presentation is the right approach?
The over a long time of being in training and development, for only 15 years. The only data as such I've seen on this came from PSA, and it was a long time ago. And they wanted to differentiate what was the difference between a top performer in terms of a sales exec, and I believe that was people 200 and units above a year, or the less good operators. They were typically 100 units or less a year. What fundamentally do the top people do that
Mhm.
the not so good people do? And they did some quite crude things. They literally at times stood in dealerships making notes on how different salespeople operated. But the data that I saw that came out of that came down to feature, advantage, benefit. And what they noted was that the bottom performers, less than 100 units a year, typically would talk about 28 different features on any one particular car. Typically only two advantages. So what it's got, what
Mm.
that does, but never actually showing any real benefits to the customer. Very different to the top performers. Typically, they would highlight less features, but at least half of the time they'd explain what that is. So this particular car's got LED brake lights. What that means is we've replaced the filament bulb with an LED. That's the feature and the advantage. And on average, four times they were saying, and you know what, Simon, that's going to be brilliant for you because.
Mm.
So on average, the top performers went into a presentation forearmed with on average four different parts of the car, features they were absolutely going to bring to life, using the customer's lifestyle to really drive home that benefit. Again, to get to do that, they had to be expert in qualification to find out where their hotspot was. We talk about spacer, don't we, in our
Mm.
training?
Yeah.
And if anyone listening isn't sure what that is, then by all means get in touch and we can explain. But yeah, the top salespeople understand the customer spacer. They go into the presentation forearmed, ready to deliver a world-class, outstanding presentation. With, I've always said 3 to 5. I wouldn't want to go in with less than three.
Mm.
More than five, it might start to become potentially a little bit boring. But again,
Yeah.
every customer is different.
Yeah.
But that would be my advice.
Yeah, it's back to the phone again. How much stuff is on a modern, any smartphone? There's hundreds and hundreds of different features. But when push comes to shove, when someone buys the Samsung as opposed to the Apple or vice versa, it's often three or four hot buttons, isn't it?
Mm.
It's three or four things that really turn them on about that product, which they've worked out before they've got to the store in most cases.
Yeah,
Uh,
and analogies just popped into my head. I know you're taking some vacation. That's
mm.
very American, was it? You're on holiday in a couple of weeks, which I have to say is rare for you. And if I said to you, "Hey Simon, what are you really looking forward to on your holiday in a couple of weeks' time?" You're probably going to give me three or four things, aren't you? You're not going to
Yep.
give me a list of 50 different things you'd like to achieve on holiday, and it might just be eat the local cuisine, soak up some sun, spend time, whatever they may be,
Nice
and
glass of red, actually, I'll be high up there for me.
perfect. And I think that's true of anything, isn't it? When we're buying an item, there could be dozens of value added benefits, but really we're only ever focused on those top three, four, or five, aren't we?
Mm. Yeah, so true. So if we go back to feature, advantage, benefit, I understand E.K. Stone come up with that and wrote a book, The Fab Way of Selling. Someone told me it was back in the 1930s, I believe, or something like that. I know you can't buy it anymore, okay, because I've tried, but he had such an easy way to explain it. The feature is what it is. The advantage is the generic advantage. So if we take active lane departure warning system, the camera's going to pick up on the two white lines on this dual carriageway or motorway. So if you get distracted, it's going to steer you back in the middle of the road. But the benefit is linked to the customer. So Stuart, when you get distracted with Jacob in the back of the car, be quiet when dad's driving the car. and you look back, you're half a meter in the other lane. The beauty of this car is going to actively drive you back into the center lane to get you, and it will get your attention right back to where you needed to be. So the way he explained it for me, not back then in the 1930s, but it was has, which. So this vehicle has got whatever it is, which means that. But it's the so, that's the magic for me. That's when you link to the actual customer. Has which so, it's one of those things that get drummed into us from an early age that I always remember. If it's a feature dump, just think has which so.
So
And it gets
it,
you into that.
it's funny as you just explained that. I've gone back to, I think it was probably 2006. And my company car at the time was a Citroen C6, which many people listening won't have a clue what that is. But even now, I still look at them longingly. It's sort of a big banana-shaped car, but packed with features. You've got heads-up display.
Mhm.
Back in 2006 was quite cool. And I used to get really excited telling people that had got lane departure warning. But what was brilliant about it, if you ventured over a white line on the left, your left butt cheek would get pummeled and vibrated.
I
And if
remember
you went
that.
over on the
Yeah.
right hand side, it would be the right cheek. And that would have been the start and the end of my presentation. It was never the which means.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I was really fell into the trap that we've been talking about. I got really enthusiastic about one particular feature because it kind of made me giggle. I was quite keen to share that with customers.
Yeah.
There's probably next to none that actually found any value in any of that.
Hey, listen, we've all done it, haven't we? We've
Mm.
all gone on something, but well, heads up display for me. I've had it on my last four cars now. It was a gimmick to start with. I knew I didn't want it, but hey, we work in the trade. This particular car had it on it. I thought, okay, it's the right deal. There was good finance deposit contribution or whatever. Let's do it. Weird thing is, now that I'm used to the heads-up display, I think I'd find it hard to go to a car without it because, of course,
Mm.
it shows the satellite navigation up on the screen, not the speed. But you know why, Stuart? Because in our job, we're sick and tired of trying to find a gig at a strange town in the middle of the night, trying to find a hotel and going through, I don't know, speed cameras or red lights or whatever while I'm looking down at the satellite navigation somewhere else. It's quite funny. Something that some people might think is not that important. Or in fact, one stage further. For me, buying a car, and I changed my car 6 months ago. It's a daft little thing that I could not buy a car without a handle in the back seat of the car. And a lot of people will say, "Oh, why do you need that? You've got an elderly parent needs to
Oh,
get
grab rail.
grab handle
Yeah,
right at the
yeah,
top."
yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing. If you're a salesperson, listen to this. You're probably guessing why I want that elderly parent in there. Maybe I've got to tie a dog up to it or nothing, something like that. But of course, people who can see Stuart at the moment, he's smirking at the moment because he does my job. He knows exactly why I want that. Because what is that handrail for,
Clothes
Stuart?
rail.
Sorry?
It's a clothes rail to
It's
hang all your ironed
absolutely.
shirts for the week.
It's the five shirts get hung up there, and that's my wardrobe there.
Yeah.
Again, salespeople, you don't understand that. In fact, Stuart, can you share with us a story about your partner who really needed to have memory seats in the car? Okay, and really had to have, without a shadow of a doubt, memory seats and adaptive cruise control.
Yeah. Again, your memory's better than mine. So it was a while ago. I had a partner who was upgrading the car. It was a Golf GTD that she had and was going up to a Passat CC. I can't remember the spec. And to this day, I don't suppose any salesperson would actually qualify what was it about that particular spec. And if she'd been asked, it would have been it's got electric memory seats. Um, Now, most salespeople would think that that's a good job in qualifying, right? I found out that this lady's got to have electric memory seats. Brilliant. The car we're looking at, it's got it. But actually, why are the electric memory seats? That's where the
That's the
power is.
key
We've talked
question.
about this before, haven't we? It's
Yeah.
always the question to the question where we get all the information. So tell me, why are the electric memory seats so important to you? And she would have shared the fact that she'd broken her back in an accident skiing some time before, and she recovered, made a full recovery, but the sitting position in her car became absolutely crucial because she was prone to chronic backache at the vertebrae where she'd broken it. And the first time this came to light, um, when I drove her car post recovery, and I moved the seat because I was taller than her, so the seat gets pumped down and the seat gets slid back. I got it in the neck for days because I'd lost that sweet spot of a sitting position that she could never find again. So the reason that the next car had to have electric memory seats was so she could find that comfortable position. I believe the steering wheel was reach and rake electric, the mirrors were. She could save that. And then whoever drove her car beyond that, it didn't matter what they did with the seat or the mirrors or the steering wheel, because she knew that when she got back in it, she could press the number one and she'd go back into that perfect spot. I do talk about this on our road to a sale. So now you've uncovered that when we talk about spacer, comfort, you're going to talk about maybe heated seats, maybe massage seats, maybe adjustable lumbar support. There'll be a host of other features you could talk about that would make that particular car the must-have car for her.
Listen, can presentations make up for a less competitive price? Or is that just wishful thinking?
No, I believe they can. So make it clear, we understand price is important, right? Most of us, when we're buying stuff, we look at the price before we really see if the value equates, and that's just how we work. However, I'd also back that up with there's a lot of things that we own that aren't the cheapest out there. Most of us use iPhones or maybe Samsung Galaxies. I'd say they're probably the most expensive phone on the market. There's cheaper phones out there, but somebody might think, well, I've just got the cheapest phone I could get from my network provider. They might buy Andrex toilet paper, or I don't know why that's the first one that came to mind. But they might buy their coffee from Costa. That might be their weekly treat. We definitely don't always buy at a price point. What we've got is these scales, and what we're looking for is there enough value in what I'm paying for, and providing it matches, we're typically good to go ahead. So, given that we probably haven't got the cheapest car out there, most of our listeners will be franchise retailers, and therefore the price point of their cars are going to be higher, and that's because of the preparation work that goes into it, the facilities that we offer. So I do think then to the presentation, to add value, to balance up the price point, I think that makes it even more important.
It's you said before, I don't know who mentioned it, hopefully you can remember, but every bit of discount you give a customer is a piece of value
that was
you haven't built.
A brilliant trainer called Matthew Warrener, and he was one of the lead trainers at Ford. And I heard him say it once: every pound of discount given is a pound of value not added. And that stuck with me ever since. I think that's so true, isn't it? There are brands out there that do not discount their product. Rolex is an obvious one that comes to mind, because people who are investing in that particular brand, they see a value in what they're handing over their money for. So our job through presentation is to build as much value in the car as we possibly can.
Yeah. So let's go back to the video. So we're going to talk about presenting the car, not video specifically, but it kind of crosses over. And is there a danger that these 360-degree live videos where you can, zoom in the car, zoom out and so forth, is that going to replace the presentation? Or is the presentation on the video not just about the car? Because I suppose those 360 things can't really sell the dealership, the salesperson as well, can it?
I remember being in an Audi retailer years ago. It's just come to mind as you mentioned that. And they got VR. I've not seen it used so much recently.
I do believe that turned into See It Now. I think See It Now started with the whole big cameras on, and now Alistair is going to be screaming at me at the moment. So Alistair from See It Now, I believe they started with that in the service department. This is where we're going to get all the messages where people will be screaming at the radio now saying, "No, we started it."
I'm thinking of something a little bit different, and
okay.
I've got a feeling it was around the R8 product. It was Audi,
okay.
and the customer could put on the virtual reality, and they could be looking at the car. They could be sat in the car, as if the car were physically in front of them.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and this isn't preloaded. We this isn't scripted, is it? But I remember seeing that years ago, probably 10 years ago. If that had been successful,
Mm.
I'd see it every day in every retailer, and it would be a big part
Yeah.
of our training, but I just don't see it. So clearly, even taking a digital presentation to the extreme, virtual reality, is nowhere near as impactful as physically seeing the car. That, however, doesn't mitigate the importance of a really good see it now, or a really good video. But really, for me, that should, unless it's a long distance sale where we're not going to get to meet the customer, then absolutely we need to present the car. For me, the video that we send really should just be enticing the customer,
Yeah.
show them enough to whet their appetite to want to come and see it in person.
So true. Talk about the condition of the car, where we got the car from. This car's been in a workshop. One of our senior technicians checked 145-point checks on the car. That means it's past that. It's an approved used Mazda. That means we can give you the same warranty on the car. That's the stuff we need to do. Again, we keep on saying like a broken record. It's not that feature dump, feature dump, feature dump that we still see lots out
Yeah.
there. So, sorry, I cut you off there.
I was
No.
going to say we haven't mentioned it, and I don't know if it's because we think similarly. We're talking just about presentation, and most people will be thinking of stood in a showroom, walking around the car, but the demonstration drive is presentation. There are some things we can only present on a car and bring to life when it's static. It could be the design of the car if that's one of the key interests for the customer. There's some other things. You mentioned lane departure warning. We can talk about it, but doesn't it work better? Not all safety features we should be demonstrating on demonstration drive. I'll just put that out there. But ones that it's safe to do so, adaptive cruise control, for example,
Yeah.
or demonstration drive or test drive, if people may have called it in the past,
Yeah.
is still presentation. Presentation, demonstration, they're all the same thing. Some is static, some is rolling. And also, I'm a firm believer that one doesn't necessarily have to follow the other.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what your thoughts are.
The presentation demonstration, I was taught you can do them together. Now,
Mm.
if it's wet, it's raining, cats and dogs there, you're going to do a separate presentation in a showroom to do what was actually called a test drive years ago. Okay. I kind of think though it's our technician test drive cars. We now want to demonstrate the right feature to the right customer, right time. And this is a big shout out to a Mercedes salesperson in Wexford because it went on a demonstration drive and he wanted to demonstrate to me the self-parking on this car. And I'm like, do me a favor, it's shite anyway. It takes too long to set up. Okay. It's just like, I'll never use that in a million years there. Now, of course, I'm thinking of a self-parking system that I seen maybe on a Toyota Prius 15 years ago, which was shite. Okay. But now with one push button, he demonstrates it as like, wow, I now get that. That is more user friendly. But he hit the nail on the head. He said, Skippy, I still wouldn't trust a customer to do it themselves.
Mm.
I've got to absolutely demonstrate that. So, hey, listen, that's crossing over into presentation, into the demonstration. But I'm going to tell you, when he wanted to start talking about it, and I'm going to contradict what I said before, it's almost like, I've been in the motor trade all my life. I know how to park. Okay. Parking, I don't need help with that. But then as soon as he did it, I went, oh, I now get that. I tell you what, save using my alloy wheels as parking sensors. Okay. That could work there. So it's something that I dismissed as a customer. But when I've seen it, I thought, wow, that is interesting. So I think without contradicting, would I buy it just for that? No, but it added to something I didn't know as a customer. Or sorry, or I dismissed because I seen what it was like many moons ago.
Yeah.
Uh, we got
Similarly, I saw a big up a sales executive at Hyundai in Cardiff. They were showing the customer the Ionic 5,
mhm,
and at the touch of a button, I think it was the Ionic 5, um, it would go backwards and forwards into the parking space. So car parking spaces are getting narrower and narrower, which drives me mad for car park dents. Um, but sometimes you can't help the fact that I was in Stratford on Saturday in the car park bays. You could barely open the doors,
yeah,
but they had no choice because parking was very limited. And this particular car, you get out, and exactly what you said, it would just reverse in nice and straight, and then at the touch of a button, it would just pull itself out, just enough for you to get in the car. And the lady that he was presenting that to, her mind was blown,
Mm.
because one of the things she really infuriated her was parking in Cardiff city centre, where parking is at a premium, and therefore the spaces have got smaller and
Yep.
smaller. Yeah, but
I,
he'd made sure it was relevant beforehand.
yeah. Had she seen that beforehand online? I,
I don't know. I
yeah.
get the impression not,
Yeah.
because it was really a, oh my God, look at that. The car can actually pull itself in and out of a parking bay. She's
Yeah.
blown away. What's interesting about that, I talk about Euro NCAP. Now,
Mm.
because I'm old, Euro NCAP back in the day was huge in the market. I remember
Mm.
Renault in the noughties, they'd have a big sticker in the back window that said 5-star Euro NCAP on the Laguna, for example, because it was so powerful. Honestly, how many customers come in asking about Euro NCAP? I think very few. It's still a big part, it's still out there, and most manufacturers, in fact, nearly all manufacturers, send nearly all of those cars to be tested by
Mm.
Euro NCAP. Um, and one of the things I encourage people to do is, if you look at the particular cars that you sell, download the report, and in particular, I'll read the small report on child occupant safety. If your brand has models that states things like, this particular model scored the maximum points available in the protection of the 6 and 10-year-old dummies, how powerful is that information when you're talking about that car with a young family or with grandparents,
Mm.
if safety is as important? The reason that just came to mind when you mentioned the parking, there's probably lots of competitor models that would also have achieved maximum points available. But I
Mm.
guarantee you that if they visit the competitor, they won't know, and certainly won't talk about it. So getting back to the lady with the Hyundai, she may have been looking at a competitor's car, could have been looking at a Kia that might
Yeah.
have exactly the same technology. But if that Kia salesperson hadn't understood the relevance and the importance and showed it to her,
Yeah.
what value is it?
Yeah, there's that wow moment, and I suppose he had to know that parking was an issue for that lady.
Yeah.
Um, Now, having said that, you know what? Sometimes people, what did Henry Ford say? If I gave the customers what they wanted, we'd give them a faster horse. Okay. Sometimes you go show the customer what they don't want. So again, keep that in mind. You will still have those wow things that you need to show customers. I mean, Skoda, there is still a 30-cent piece of plastic, which is the ice scraper in the fuel door that still wows non-Skoda customers. The parking ticket piece of plastic there at the front there, so you don't get the sticky residue of the parking ticket on the windscreen. Again, those things, still add those bits in, but please, please, people listen to this, do not feature dump. Okay. Find out what selling people have done to themselves before they get here. Hey, Stuart, I've enjoyed this. Let's leave the listeners with just one idea that you can put in today, right now, immediately, for improving the presentations in the showroom. So if you're a sales manager, dealer principal, head of business, listening to this, what would you do to make sure these presentations, they don't happen, other than listening to this podcast in the next sales meeting? What would you get the guys to do?
I love it when you put me on the spot like this. So if I'm management, we encourage the managers, don't we, at the first review. So when the customer's done their qualification and their pod exchange appraisal, we encourage the managers to ask, tell me a few things about the customer, just to make sure that the qualification is on track. So I'd underline that. I'd be asking my team, you're about to go and present the car. Tell me what key features, what key 3 or 4 or 5 features are you going to present, and why? That way, as a manager, I know that my sales exec has done the work beforehand in qualification. Um,
Mm.
and if they just turn around and say, well, it's got more space. Okay, tell me what you mean by more space. Why do they need more space? Whom is it for? So it's our job as a management team to make sure that they've done the job. I remember someone saying to me, I've probably mentioned this before, if people did what we always expected them to do, we wouldn't need managers in the first place.
So true.
So to expect the sales exec to have qualified the way that we would have qualified them as a manager would be a little bit naive. So yeah, as a management team, tell me a few things about your customer and tell me what you're going to present on the car and why. And all we're doing is satisfying the need to know that they've done a thorough job in qualification. If it's a sales exec, listen to this. It's the same advice. Before you go near the car to present it, ask yourself, as a minimum, what are the three key features of this car I'm absolutely going to bring to life, using the customer's life to bring those features to life to the point where they couldn't live without them. Unless you know at least what three things, ideally four or five, you're not ready yet to go and present that car.
Brilliant. Absolute brilliant. Listen, yet again, I enjoy our conversations. We put the world to right. Okay, so
We
I'm
can
sure
talk.
we do. We're sales trainers. That's what we do for a living. And listen, I hope you really like the ideas that we talked about there. Do me a favor, forward this on to your salespeople. Okay, subscribe there just so it really helps the algorithm. You know how it works. And that about does it for now. And we'll see you next time. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, symcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.